Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Villa, No Filler. Please like and subscribe to the show if you are happy that Aston Villa won 1-0 last night. It's a slightly different look. I'm away from the usual setting. That's why it looks and probably sounds a bit different. Um, but yeah, I just want to do a quick run through of the game last night. Went to Zrinjski. Villa were made hard work of it, I would say. It was a very, very difficult game. And, European games are just a different experience. And, it's very easy to underestimate a lot of these teams in Europe and just assume that because we're in the Premier League, we're going to walk all over them. And, you know, uh, I think it was another example of how Villa maybe are a year ahead of where we, you know, probably were supposed to be, although at the same time we do have loads of injuries we're dealing with. And I say that in a sense because I feel like whenever Villa mix up their first 11 and try and bring in some of the, more peripheral players, they struggle to impose themselves or have any kind of rhythm. And some of them don't even look very comfortable playing Unai Emery's style of football. We've seen this in a few competitions now, and I think again last night in the first half it looked a little bit like that. I think the main thing I noticed, I was at the game, Villa Park. I mean, firstly, it was amazing to be there and be back, see Villa back in Europe. I've seen us play in Europe a lot of times before, but it's been a very long time since that happened, and there's always something very unique about seeing a fan base from wherever, Bosnia as it was last night, in the away end, setting off flares and singing and performing through the whole thing. It's just a very different experience and something that's it's quite special, really. But yeah, I mean, first half it just felt a little bit like Villa were no cohesion again, as we've seen in recent weeks whenever we've relied on those backup players. And some of that is partly because they don't play very often. And if you don't play, it doesn't matter if you're a professional footballer or if you're a Sunday league player. It's hard to just come in and be the best you could be, really. And I think there were maybe one or two players last night who I think showed that. I think you know I, I don't want to get at players. I think Tielemans looked a little off the pace a bit at times. He did some good things, but I don't know. There just seemed like occasions where it felt like he wasn't quite up to the pace of things. A little clunky. Uh, maybe he just needs games. Maybe he needs to play more regularly. And on the flip side of that, he's a player who's played a lot of football since he was, 16, 17 years of age at a very high level as well. I've not missed many games in, I don't know, what is it, 7, 8 years. So it's a lot of football in those legs. So we'll be interested to see how he develops at Villa. I don't know. I just thought there was some, he wasn't brilliant, I thought, which, sorry if that's a bit too negative, but, I can only say what I saw. Um, but I thought otherwise, Villa first half, like I really think we missed a dynamic fullback, and you can totally see why Matty Cash was brought on. But I think that Alex Moreno is that dynamic fullback. I think he's more dynamic than both Cash and Dean. Dean seems to be a player who, if you give him a yard, he can whip in a great ball and hit someone, dead on target. But if teams are wizened up to that, it doesn't really feel like his natural game is to beat a man. He'll always want to come back and play and recycle. Whereas Cash, I think Cash has got this season a bit more confident at taking players on. He's still not great at it, but last night he showed a bit more dynamism against a team that just sat back. He looked like he was more effective than Dean in that scenario. And of course, he got the assist, and he probably could have got another assist or maybe even a goal a little bit earlier. And there was an occasion where I thought in the stadium it looked like it should have been a penalty, like he was sort of taken out when he got into the area. I don't know if anybody else can comment on that and tell me what you thought of that. But I just in the stadium, I never saw a replay of it. I can't find it online, but it just looked like a penalty, like it was just taken out. Um, But anyway, that first half, just again, if we didn't have as many injuries as we have, I think we would have had players to get the job done in the first half. Now it just feels a bit like the players who are relying on to come in are not really able to play to a really any kind of with any kind of like fast rhythm with fast pace. It feels like it's all very slow. And then that second half injection from Watkins, Cash, and Douglas Luiz, pace, pace, pace. That was the difference, and speed. And we were lucky to come out of that first half, not actually a goal down, with a great save from Henry Martinez from Bilbia, I think it was. And then second half, Villa were absolutely dominant. A bit worrying that it took us as long to break down Mostar as it did. They did do really well, Mostar, in defending, and I think that European football is it's just different. I think I wonder if when you're a Premier League player and you play against other Premier League players, you kind of know them. You sort of know what to expect. Whereas when you play these European teams, sometimes you probably have to get used to it in the game, and maybe it takes a little longer to sort of adjust. Even playing on Thursday nights with a sort of unique away fan base under the floodlights with a not necessarily the strongest 11 at times as well, because Emery has to mix his team up because of the sheer volume of games we're going to have. Maybe even that can impact players a bit. Europe's just a different experience, and you saw that last night. And the thing is, Villa getting that last minute winner through Super John McGinn, giving it that running around. Thank God. And it was a great ball from Cash. Traore played his part in that as well, where he cut inside and cut it back to Cash and made a good overlapping run and a good ball into John McGinn, who it was a great header. That was a great header. He was kind of having to sort of pull himself back to generate the power to finish it and get it bottom corner. Super, super header. Great player, isn't he, John McGinn? He's just having a whale of a time under Unai Emery and looks like just a class player, really. Is it a concern we couldn't put them away a bit earlier than we did? A little bit, but I wouldn't get too upset about it. I think what it might suggest, though, is let's say Wolves this weekend sit back and they get a breakaway. You would think that Wolves, if they were to try and do a similar thing to Mostar and sit back, you'd think Wolves would be able to create a bit more on the counter attack and in transitions, and you would back Wolves to maybe take a chance more so than Mostar. So that's definitely something to think about. If a team is sitting back against Unai Emery's Villa, have we yet worked out a formula to consistently break that down? We'll see. I think Wolves will be quite. I think they beat City and they beat they'll be at Molineux, so they'll be very up for it and they'll go at Villa. But I wouldn't be surprised if they try and play a bit of a containment game, and maybe let Villa have the ball but just contain us and let us pass around and recycling over and over and then just hit us on the counter. So that's what I think Wolves potentially will try and do. But yeah, fantastic to be back in Europe. Amazing. Just had a brilliant time at Villa Park. Loved it. And hopefully plenty more of those days to come. And who knows, maybe it'll be Conference League and maybe Europa League, Champions League one day as well. Why not? But Villa got the win, exactly what we needed. Bring on Alkmaar and bring on Lechia Warsaw next. Please like and subscribe. Up the mighty Villa.